October 10th, 2025. A date that will be remembered as the world holds its breath, waiting for a breakthrough that could reshape the future of the Middle East. Across continents, people gather around screens, following every update as whispers of a new peace plan circulate between Israel and Hamas. The air is thick with anticipation, hope, and anxiety. These are not direct negotiations. Instead, the process unfolds through indirect talks, carefully mediated by the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, nations with their own stakes and histories in the region. Diplomats shuttle tirelessly between capitals, relaying messages, counteroffers, and proposals. Each journey is a delicate mission, carrying the weight of countless lives and the hopes of millions. Israel and Hamas refuse to recognize each other, making direct talks impossible. The empty chairs across the table are a stark reminder of the deep divisions that persist. Every word is weighed with utmost care, every gesture scrutinized for hidden meaning. A misplaced phrase or misunderstood signal could unravel weeks of progress. The process is fragile, teetering on the edge of collapse. Trust is scarce, and the risk of misinterpretation is ever present, making each step forward uncertain. Mediators, too, bring their own interests and perspectives, subtly shaping the direction and tone of the talks. Their influence is both a source of strength and a potential complication. The immediate focus is a phased approach. First, a ceasefire, and then the exchange of hostages and prisoners. These initial steps are seen as building blocks for something greater, though the path ahead remains uncertain. Broader issues, such as Gaza's future governance, long-term security, and the rebuilding of shattered communities, are left intentionally vague, shrouded in secrecy and ambiguity. The language of the agreements is deliberately broad, crafted to keep both sides at the table. Ambiguity becomes a tool, allowing progress without forcing either party to make impossible concessions. For ordinary people in Israel and Gaza, these talks are a fragile flicker of hope amid years of exhaustion, fear, and loss. Every headline is met with a mix of cautious optimism and deep skepticism. Families gather in living rooms and places of worship, praying for the safe return of loved ones and an end to the violence that has defined their lives for so long. Political leaders face immense pressure, not only from their own populations, who demand justice and security, but also from the international community, which watches and waits for signs of progress. The peace process is a true tightrope walk, with hope and skepticism balanced in equal measure. Every step forward is met with the fear of a sudden fall. The obstacles are formidable. Decades of mistrust, cycles of violence, and political divisions. Yet, the enduring desire for peace persists, pushing negotiators to keep trying, even when the odds seem insurmountable. The world waits, holding its collective breath, to see if this fragile, indirect dialogue can finally bridge a chasm that has divided generations and offer a new beginning for all those who yearn for peace. A glaring issue, the empty chair at the table. Hamas is involved, but it doesn't represent all Palestinians. The Palestinian Authority and other voices are sidelined, reducing a diverse national movement to a single group. Any deal reached this way risks lacking legitimacy among Palestinians. Bypassing the PA undermines decades of work toward a two-state solution. This dynamic rewards militancy over diplomacy, deepening divisions. Peace cannot be imposed, it must be negotiated with those whose future is at stake. The exclusion of key Palestinian voices may doom the process before it begins. The peace plan leans on vague terms, none more so than deradicalization. What does it mean? Changing schools? Disbanding groups? Who decides? For Israel, it could mean erasing all opposition. For Hamas, surrender. Ambiguity allows initial agreement but creates instability and future conflict. Without clear benchmarks or enforcement, promises are empty. The plan's language is filled with similar vagueness on security and governance. This is crisis management, not conflict resolution. Ambiguity serves the powerful, not the people living with the consequences. Without trust and clarity, peace is built on sand. The refusal to define terms reveals a deeper unwillingness to confront the real issues. Skepticism about today's plan is deeply rooted in the failure of the Oslo Accords, a moment that once seemed to promise a new era of peace in the Middle East. Oslo brought hope and direct talks between sworn adversaries, breaking decades of silence. Yet it left the hardest issues, Jerusalem, borders, refugees, unresolved, postponing them for future negotiations that never truly materialized. Today's plan seems to repeat Oslo's mistakes, but with even less promise. There are no direct negotiations, and the sense of urgency and optimism that once existed has faded. Unlike Oslo, which involved recognized leaders on both sides, the current talks are indirect and often exclude the Palestinian Authority, raising questions about legitimacy and representation. The optimism and public enthusiasm of the 1990s have vanished, replaced by deep mistrust, frustration, and hardened positions on both sides of the conflict. Settlement expansion, internal divisions, and dramatic political shifts have eroded faith in the peace process, making compromise seem more distant than ever. The core issues left unresolved by Oslo, status of Jerusalem, right of return for refugees, and final borders, still block any real progress today, casting a long shadow over new initiatives. The current plan focuses narrowly on managing the ongoing conflict in Gaza, rather than addressing the broader fundamental question of Palestinian statehood and self-determination. Instead of striving for comprehensive peace, the world now seems content with crisis containment, reacting to emergencies rather than resolving the underlying conflict. The ghost of Oslo warns us of the dangers of ambiguity and deferred promises. When agreements lack clarity and fail to address core grievances, they sow the seeds for future disappointment. Without confronting the root causes, land, identity, security, and justice, history risks repeating itself, trapping generations in a cycle of failed negotiations and broken dreams. The lessons of the past are clear, yet the process continues to repeat old mistakes, as if haunted by the unresolved ghosts of previous efforts. The cycle of hope and disappointment continues, reminding us that without real change, peace will remain just out of reach. The peace plan reflects the interests of its architects. For the U.S., the goal is regional stability and a quick de-escalation. For Israel, it's about security, hostage return, and neutralizing Hamas, without major concessions. Israel's political landscape makes compromise on statehood nearly impossible. Hamas seeks survival and legitimacy, using talks to bolster its power in Gaza. Egypt and Qatar mediate for their own security and influence. Competing interests create a web where peace is often secondary to strategy. The plan's ambiguity lets each side claim victory, but leaves core issues unresolved. In this environment, strategic calculations overshadow the pursuit of lasting peace. Supporters say any reduction in violence is a victory, no matter how small. For many, even a brief pause in fighting brings a sense of hope that peace is possible, if only for a moment. These moments are cherished, as they offer a glimpse of what life could be like without constant fear and uncertainty. Ceasefires and prisoner exchanges bring relief to families and save lives. They allow loved ones to reunite, children to return to school, and communities to begin the slow process of healing. For those caught in the crossfire, these gestures are lifelines, offering a rare chance to breathe and rebuild, even if only temporarily. Diplomats frame these steps as building blocks for future negotiations. They argue that every agreement, no matter how limited, lays the groundwork for more meaningful dialogue and trust. Each handshake and signed document is presented as progress, a step toward a more stable and peaceful future. Critics warn this is a mirage, managing symptoms, not curing the disease. They argue that these measures are superficial, offering only the illusion of progress while deeper issues remain unaddressed. Without tackling the underlying causes, they say, true peace will remain out of reach. The plan ignores root causes, occupation, lack of rights, unresolved status issues. These fundamental problems continue to fuel resentment and unrest, making any temporary calm fragile and easily shattered. Until these core grievances are addressed, the cycle of conflict is likely to continue. Temporary calm may simply set the stage for future conflict. While daily life may resume for a time, the scars of war remain, and the threat of renewed violence always lingers in the background. The sense of normalcy is often fleeting, overshadowed by the fear that peace will not last. The peace process risks becoming an end in itself, not a means to justice. Endless talks and agreements can create the illusion of progress, but without real change on the ground, they may only serve to perpetuate the status quo. Real progress must lead toward a solution, not entrench the status quo. Lasting peace requires addressing the legitimate aspirations and rights of all people involved, not just managing the conflict or postponing difficult decisions. If the plan only manages conflict, it may be worse than doing nothing. It risks deepening cynicism and despair, making future efforts at reconciliation even harder. People on the ground need more than temporary fixes. They need hope for a better future. The true test is whether it opens a path to real peace, or just delays the next crisis. Only time will tell if these efforts are genuine steps toward resolution, or simply another pause before the cycle of violence resumes. The plan's biggest casualty may be Palestinian political rights. Elevating Hamas sidelines the Palestinian Authority and rewards violence over diplomacy. This weakens formal institutions and fragments Palestinian society. The plan offers limited autonomy, not true sovereignty or self-determination. Security and deradicalization take precedence over political rights. Palestinians risk becoming a pacified, disenfranchised population under permanent oversight. Exclusion denies agency and treats Palestinians as a problem, not a people. Lasting peace requires recognizing Palestinian rights and including their voices at the table. The current plan is built on shaky ground, indirect talks, exclusion, and ambiguity. It aims for short-term calm, not long-term resolution. The lessons of Oslo are ignored, and the same mistakes are repeated. The motivations of the key players pull the process in conflicting directions. Palestinian rights and representation are sacrificed for expediency. Imposed solutions never last. Real peace demands inclusion and justice. Only a process with all voices at the table can break the cycle. Until then, true peace will remain just out of reach.